Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Syncing with ServiceNow. I'm super excited today to introduce you guys to one of our new panelists and also do a quick overview, or not a quick overview, but overview of what ServiceNow really is, because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know. It's kind of a joke. It's a platform of platforms, and we'll go from there. Guy with me, Fred Reynolds, was here last week. Fred is our director of our modern apps practice. Fred, how's it going?
Going good, Andy. How are you doing?
Good. I know you and I went to the ServiceNow sales kickoff last week. Key takeaway was what?
Absolutely. No, a lot of energy. Certainly love the keynote by Bill McDermott, right? ServiceNow has just so much to deliver, right? The platform of platforms, like you said. So my key takeaways are so many industries that it fits in, so many different modules, so many areas to improve people's business, right? So they did a really good job of kind of going across the whole platform of what they sell.
Yeah, I think I'd also add that, well, two things. I found myself walking around all weekend, like pumping my fist. I was like, damn,
Yeah,
it's viral, it's spreading.
Yeah, I'm trying to put together a marching band for when I get introed, right? I mean, that was something kind of neat.
I think I actually even did like my best New York, New Jersey accent one time when I did it. I was like, oh my gosh. but the point is, it is contagious. We have energy, and XenTegra has energy. Sometimes I like to think it comes from me, some of it, but the team, energy matters. And it's the other thing I took away is ServiceNow desperately needs good partners to step up, do things like this podcast that we're doing here, bring great people to the mix, spread the message, talk about the platform for enterprise IT. One takeaway for me was he made a comment that he used to tell people they were going to be the top enterprise software and enterprise IT, and people no longer tell him that he was wrong. That they used to argue, no, you won't be. Now they're like, yeah, you might be. Loved that messaging from last week.
Yeah, and I think one more thing, a key takeaway too, just ServiceNow in general, just how much they invest in their platform, their people, right? And you saw that as well, right? They continue to grow, got a lot more people to work for ServiceNow, a lot of new programs, even the partner programs are refreshing. So they just year over year just keep innovating, keep pushing that innovation from them and their customers, right? Honestly.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to say they're talking about while others are shrinking, they're going to grow. Guess so that's our model too.
Yeah.
And because of where they fit in the industry, unless there's a massive recession, I think they might be right.
And I think that's what people need to understand about ServiceNow. It is a platform to enable them to do that, right? To enable them to, yes, some companies may have to downsize a little bit, right? But how do they become more efficient even through that process, right? And investing in a platform like this will allow them to do that, actually produce savings.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? When the economy starts to suffer, you need to engineer your way out of it, and software and services seems to, at least in my career, be the answer every single time so far.
Yeah, it's funny how confident Bill McDermott said that as well, right? He is very confident that ServiceNow will have a very large year this coming year just because of that, just because of the need.
Yeah. All right, we've got a special, I was about to say guest, but I think she's going to be a panelist with us, and thankfully, because we need the help, don't we?
She's a very special addition to the team.
So Kristin McDonald has joined the XenTegra team, and she is a solutions architect, senior solutions architect here at XenTegra. Ton of experience. Kristin, I wouldn't do you justice if I tried to explain it myself. Tell us who you are.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I am thrilled to join XenTegra and thrilled to join this podcast. As Andy mentioned, my name is Kristin McDonald, and I have been working with ServiceNow since the Aspen release. So it's been over a decade now. I absolutely love the tool set, and I'm super excited to be here and help our client.
Yeah. Hey, Fred, I don't know about you, but Kristin broke up a little bit.
A little bit.
Kill your video for us.
Yeah, that may help it to be. Yeah, I think we got the gist of it, but yeah.
Kristin, on that, without naming names, favorite project you've ever done?
Well, Avaya, where I worked with Fred, obviously.
Yeah. What was it about what you guys did at Avaya that you found rewarding, made an impact on their business? And you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but the point in having you on here is, Fred and I talk about this stuff. You've actually done it. What was successful in that engagement? I call it engagement because I'm sure there's multiple projects involved, but in any particular engagement with that customer, what was the difference you were able to make?
Personally, I really enjoy getting to know the client's business and really helping them take it to the next level. I think that's my favorite thing about any engagement is really helping them take those processes, take those workflows to the next level, get their employees used to the new tool set and excited about the new tool sets. That's always a challenge, but something we really accomplished with that implementation, and really the people, working with new people and tool sets. It's always an amazing process. Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about it that way. And I kind of maybe led you to the business side of it, which you probably would have talked about anyway. At the end of the day, just turning on, flipping switches and making ones and zeros is nothing if there's not a purpose for why it makes the business better.
Oh, absolutely. ServiceNow is an amazing tool set. It can do so many things, but it really has to be tailored to the business, or else what's the point?
Yeah. Yep. I joke with people all the time when they say it didn't work. I'm like, "Would you get the bad code?" It was the same code. All right. So Chris,
and just so I'm going to add here. So just to credit to Kristin, right? The value of having someone like Kristin that understands the platform, understands the technology, right? That's just part of it, like you guys just said, right? Understand the platform, what it does. It's a huge platform, many capabilities, many modules, many things you can make it do. But understanding what the customers need, understanding the problem and the use cases you're trying to solve. That's really where that connection has to happen. And the business usually knows what their problem is. And the tech usually know, hey, I have something that can fix it. But tying the two together, making sure it works, making sure it's done in a way so that users can adopt it, use it, and see the benefits of it. So that was a key thing. I think that Kristin absolutely helps, complete what we're trying to do here in XenTegra, because she can bring that relationship aspect and work between the two to make it happen.
Sure. So guys, the blog that we chose, you guys helped me choose, you guys chose for today is what does ServiceNow do? So again, the concept of this podcast, we just take blogs off the ServiceNow site and we talk through them and go over what they're trying to get across. I love the way they set this one up with the picture of real people laughing and smiling, because at the end of the day, it's real people that are using these solutions and helping to architect the solutions and fixing the solutions and maintaining the solutions. And then I get over and I look on the right-hand side where it talks about all the different topic areas for the blog site. And it's just, it's awesome to see all the different areas that this platform as a service, and it was great for me last week because I hear the acronym SNOW all the time. I never know when to use it. But then I heard people say it last week, the SNOW platform. I was like, yeah, that's when I say SNOW. Every other time I say ServiceNow. SNOW platform is when I know I'm using the right term for that. But all these different topic areas, IT management, and then on from there, right? All the different places, all the different pieces of the business that it fits in. Real people, real business. All right. So Fred, why did we choose this blog today?
To me, right? So, and I'll let Kristin give her perspective. To me, it's funny because even when you look at this and ServiceNow employees, you ask, what does ServiceNow do, right? Some people get choked up on what it really does. And I think it can mean different things to different people depending on what they're trying to solve, right? The platform of platforms, what does that really tell us, right? I think in some ways, if you break it down to a use case where people say they have multiple solutions, platforms, and processes and applications, and like the platform of platforms in ServiceNow means that we can bring all those into a single place, a single pane of glass, a single data model, right, to make all these things work together. A prime example of that, in my opinion, sorry, I may be going too deep too quick, but prime example is monitoring. There's tons of applications that monitor, but ServiceNow has a way of bringing those in as a different source. So when you're getting alerts from all these different things, it comes together. So I chose this, right, because we just have a simple, fun conversation about what ServiceNow is. And I think there's a little video here that ServiceNow put out that really just kind of makes fun of them even hiccuping on what ServiceNow is and trying to explain it.
Yeah. Kristin, what's your thoughts? So did you know this was an existing issue or a common issue, or based on your background, you know exactly what it is?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the breadth of the topics on the right-hand side really explains why this is such a common topic for people, because ServiceNow can do so many things, and it's so easy to look at the individual applications, to look at that IT service management application and think, okay, it's an IT platform, or look at the human resources application and think, okay, it's an HR automation platform. But it's really so much more than just the applications on top of it. This is actually one of my absolute favorite topics as an old school developer, because it just automates all of those underlying things that you have to build for a platform. You have to consider security, you have to consider infrastructure, you have to consider reporting and notifications and workflows, and all of those things are already pre-packaged in ServiceNow and available for use across your enterprise. And that's why it's such a powerful tool set, and why we're able to build such varied applications on top of it.
Indeed.
It's almost its own problem, because it can be whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
What do you want it to be? And that goes back to Kristin's point a while ago, Mr. Business Owner. What do you want it to be?
Mhm.
From here, we can take the platform and make it.
The interesting thing is there's so many different areas, right? There's so many now use cases that customers have deployed ServiceNow and how they solve for those use cases. I think that's really great, because I've gone to look, there's so many. You think of your situation, you think of your use case, right? Your problem area that you're experiencing. You're going to look on this on ServiceNow, and you will see somebody who's implemented it, right, and how they solved it and the results of that. So it's a proven out solution.
Yeah. All right, so let's do this for the fun of it. Let's listen to what they asked their employees and how they responded, and then we'll talk through whether they got it right or not. Here we go.
ServiceNow is the platform of platforms.
ServiceNow is a really key player in the market right now. We're changing every industry, and I think that's awesome.
Well, ServiceNow makes things easier, whether it be for an individual or a huge company.
Okay, so a large telco
customer was on a legacy system. It took them 17 clicks to do one function. With ServiceNow and workflow automation across that, it was one click. So whatever it took to do maybe 20 minutes was done in literally 30 seconds.
ServiceNow is a force that really helps drive efficiency.
If an employee needs something in the office, then they can submit a ticket, and we make that process easier.
There's a simple app now to submit that in the system, when before it was a very manual process. You'd have to send an email, it would be an Excel spreadsheet.
I think of ServiceNow as making work less mundane for people. It's more fun, it's more engaging, because we automate things that should be automated, so people aren't spending time doing things they don't want to do.
And ServiceNow simplifies every day. We unlock productivity, we help companies, we help organizations, we help groups, we help customers, we help teams, we help employees, we help make the world work.
We make the world work better for everyone.
All right, so first of all, why do those people talk so fast?
Nice. You may have sped it up a little bit for people to talk fast like me.
Yeah, we had them rolling through there. Okay, so Kristin, what did they say? What did they actually say?
Well, it goes back to ServiceNow's motto. The world works with ServiceNow. They really are focused on making work better for individuals, for employees, and that really is at the core of everything they do.
Yep.
Yep.
Fred, I want to ask you the same question, but I also want to tee you up a little bit and say, where did this come from? Like, what was the genesis of this platform needing to exist?
It started with him trying to solve for the IT service management space, right? And then automating ITIL processes, right? That was one thing that the one lady said that I think resonates with me when I try to explain to people what ServiceNow does. Like, it automates those mundane processes. Those day-to-day things you do, day-to-day, 17 clicks to do one function, right? Where, yes, there's things that need to be working behind the scenes in that, but even those are manual processes. If it's kicking off a task for someone to do, all of those things that are just built up take so much time, like it can automate those behind the scenes on one platform.
Yeah. So are you telling me in 2023, people still work in silos?
I tell you, we ran into a customer, Andy, I think we told you about it. We ran into a customer in the government space that still prints every single application. They have multiple applications that have to be filled out by hand in an office, get turned in. Those applications gets turned into a spreadsheet for one group, maybe something online for another group, but 8 different departments have that same application. The data fill the same information 8 different times, and then all their processes are different to deliver. So absolutely, we still see that.
So I'll tell you guys a story real quick. I'm working with a real estate agent who they gave me a they gave me a PDF. I converted it to a Word document. I put it online and shared it back to them. And then this morning they're like, well, I edited it, but I couldn't save it. It's broken. And I'm like, well, no, this is how it works. And it took a second, but once they got, that's how it works. They saw the value in technology solving siloed related, in this case, issues. And I think ServiceNow gives you that platform while also giving you at least a starting point, a very good starting point for putting that in front of people and them knowing where the next click is supposed to be.
Well, I think the funny thing is you even said, like, where does ServiceNow get started? I think it got started with the internal employee focus workflow engine, right? And they quickly expand that to customer facing, right? And tie in employees and customers all together, right? To have a better experience end to end. And I think a lot of things that have been focused on recently is a lot of that customer facing experiences, right? Where you have HR and how that helps the external people coming in and to automate onboarding, offboarding, just to make the whole experience, whether you're with that company or working from the outside in.
So Kristin, as the person who actually makes ServiceNow work, what's give us an example of a work process that you've been able to automate that you think people could resonate with?
Oh, goodness. Gosh, there's so much opportunity here.
What's an example of something you guys did at that place you and Fred used to work?
Yes, so monitoring was a big one. And I think Fred touched on that earlier. Just reducing the volume of noise that's coming up from your monitoring tool sets, because you can get, thousands, or for some companies, even millions of alarms, each week. And that's a lot of work for your organization. So if you can bundle those up, if you can have some automation in place so that some of those are automatically resolved, if you can identify which ones really need to get in front of your engineers and which ones can maybe take a lower priority or even be ignored for the time being, that really does reduce the workload and significantly improves cost and efficiency. Yeah.
So Fred, as the guy who owned that product, how much cost did you reduce?
Oh my gosh, millions. I mean, it's cost savings, it's time saving. I mean, you have to look at it from end to end, a complete workflow, not only the amount of reducing incidents is down to what's creating something to be worked, but then also where does it get worked? Which teams does it get worked in? So resource allocation, skill-based allocation, all those things is how do you filter that down to get to the right person quick and get it resolved very fast for your customers.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were going to say something before I asked you that question.
Well, I got a one-track mind. It's gone. I'll come back to it.
In the blog here, they talk about a process from Mike C., the director of go-to-market services, saved 17 clicks through automation.
Yeah,
about 20 minutes of time.
I mean, we walked through some of this with an existing customer we have that Kristin's starting to work with as well. We're introducing a virtual agent for them, and we talk about, how when they come in and someone submits a ticket per se, right? How do we get that down from having so many questions, so many get down to your root issue, right? And reducing the number of data points or entry points before something gets created. So that is one example, like 17 clicks to something, but the back end and the business owners know what the process is. You can automate that, so when someone does put in a request or a ticket or something, it gets automated quickly. It reduces all that.
So I'm infamous, I would say famous, but infamous for saying the following: I don't like automation. But here's what I mean. I don't want to automate inefficient processes. What I think ServiceNow is going to allow me to do is take inefficient processes, make them efficient, and then automate them.
Absolutely. And that's where the value of a partner really comes into play, because we can sit down and understand what you're doing today, and we understand the platform and what it can do, and we can help advise on those process refinements and where you can modify them to make them more efficient, where you can modernize them and really gain the benefit of the tool set.
Yeah, I know Fred likes to do home projects. Fred, do you remember the first deck you ever built onto a house?
Absolutely.
In hindsight, things you would have done different or more efficiently?
Oh, completely. Absolutely. Yeah, you always learn through repetition like that. And look, you funny, Andy, say you don't like that automation, right? I know you mean it in the context of it has to be done right. That's what I built my career on, is automation, right? But you truly find out quickly if you have a good enough process to automate, right? You can repeat that. You can measure and see the efficiencies in it right away, right? Automating an effective process, you should see the time difference right when you implement it. That's what I found out from building my first deck per se, right? I did it all myself, right? So that's what I learned, right? You gotta have people to help build that with you, right? Makes it go faster. Have people with different tasks, right? Especially ones that know what they're doing.
And that's where a platform with people make the difference, but the platform's where we gotta have that underpinning to make it successful.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next section here, Kristin, I'll come to you first, is makes work better for everyone. What do they mean?
Well, ServiceNow, as Fred mentioned, started as an IT platform, an IT service management tool set. So it was really focused around supporting the IT teams, but it's grown over the years. You know, we've seen that it has an HR solution, a SecOps solution, a customer service solution, but they really are actually expanding now into different industries. So now we're seeing them come out with their telecom solution and manufacturing solutions. So they really are focused on expanding the platform. And I like to say ServiceNow has an army of developers working to make the product better every day. And it's true. And they constantly come out with new innovations. It's fantastic to see.
Well, yeah, we certainly saw that at the sales kickoff, Andy, right? We were there with 6,000 of the sales arm, right? But the rest of 12,000 people are doing that development on the back end and services for them. So they're definitely an army.
And I think you guys, Fred, you told me examples where you guys had to, you took the platform and you made something happen with the platform, and ServiceNow either listened to you or they saw what you did, or they just came up with the idea too, and they went and put it in a platform so that you got out of having to 100% own it as a side project, and it became part of the solution. Well,
it's absolutely something, and Kristin can certainly speak to it a lot better than I can, because she was already on that journey for 4 years before I was on it, right? As far as using the platform as the MSP, and certainly we had to do a lot of custom development, which is part of the platform, part of the power of the platform, and allow us low-code, no-code development. So we built the certain applications we needed for our business processes. And as we kept doing that, we saw ServiceNow, meeting with them, showing them what we did. Right now, they started evolving that out into some of the modules, or enhancing the modules they have, even from the ITSM perspective, right? It was still even a little bit immature from what we needed to use it from an MSP model.
Kristin, anything to add to that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to expand on that, ServiceNow does include both customers and partners in their focus groups, and is constantly bringing us in to talk about what's coming in the platform, to get a sneak peek at new developments, and to speak to the product teams to tell them really how are customers using this platform in the real world and how can they improve it.
So Chris and I jokingly told Andy, right, we probably spent 6 years of building out where we were with the company where we were, and then the last couple of years kind of go back to out of the box, right? So it's kind of like you build special things and you spend the next development efforts trying to go out of the box, so it makes it easier to maintain and upgrade. So definitely you can see the innovation continuing and them listening to their partners and customers.
Absolutely.
You guys familiar in IT what the acronym DOS stands for?
DOS?
DOS.
Maybe DOS attack at this point.
No. Denial of service attack. You kind of combine the old two ones. Dynamic operating system was the old one, DOS, I think.
Yeah.
And there was DOS. DNS. Oh, sorry. Now I already screwed that one. Anyway, my point in DOS in modern day terms, as we were just talking about, as well as hardware and other things, is don't own stuff. Because if you own it, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible for it. If you can birth it and give it to somebody else, let them fix it and give it back to you, now they own it. Much better.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to live my personal life like at some point, but I just keep coming home to this Amazon every day. I want more stuff.
That one's a little tricky.
I don't want stuff. And by the way, stuff is not actually what the S stands for. I just cleaned it up for this call.
It's a kid-friendly show.
Next section and last section is all about those stinking employees. Fred, why do we care if the employee gets a better experience?
That's an interesting one, John. I knew you were probably coming to me next on this one. When I look at an employee experience, I guess you have to look at that as, what does the employee do, right? We can obviously think of ourselves as an employee and how we get offboarded, onboarded as a new employee, or things that we need to order our own laptops internal. So all those things could drastically be improved, right? ServiceNow working that for you, but also think about it's more than employees doing their job functions, right? So I think what Chris and I built for years is, how do we make the employees who have a service delivery role more effective in what they do? How do we automate? How do we put things at their fingertips they need? That could be data from a different system, data going to a different system to help with their workflow. I mean, that's why we care, right? A happy employee is going to be one that sits around and gets a lot more done, takes pride in their work.
Yeah. Kristin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Fred said. And just to take it a step further, we're also in a mobile world these days, and ServiceNow comes with an out-of-box mobile platform. It is configurable. So if you've got agents out in the field, ServiceNow goes where they are. It's always available. It is available just through the internet, so you don't have to be on a VPN to access it. So ServiceNow really meets your employees where they are and improves their experience. Yeah.
So I'll
Very
throw
true.
two at you. One, this is to me, it's like having the Walmart greeter. The Walmart greeter is there to make sure you're happy coming in, happy going out. Now, I don't know that they always know that's their job, but in theory, that's their job. And if you could get them just to walk around the store and do the same thing, but of course, that's not scalable. But we have technology these days that allow us to get a sense of where the customer's at, the end user's at in this case. And by the way, I just said the word customer. Guess what? That applies here too. We can use these platforms to make sure customers are happy, because as we talked about in the beginning, it's a very extensible platform. The target audience is whatever you want it to be.
Indeed.
All right. Well, that's the end of the blog here. What do we miss, Fred? You talked about it. You talked about being at church. Somebody asked you what ServiceNow does. I mean, it's bad enough for me. I've got a history of Citrix and things where I can somewhat explain it to her, where I can just grab their phone and log into my virtual desktop. How do you answer in that setting what ServiceNow does?
In a very layman's term, I try to tell them, think about it as just a mega platform that can tie all their business processes together, their applications, their work together. So depending on whatever role, sometimes they can ask them, what do you do? What do you do for your job, right? They may tell, hey, they may be in legal. Okay, what do you do with all these forms? And don't you have processes you follow to send that to the next step, or review, or show a record of you reviewing that and what your thoughts are? I said, this platform builds and automates those processes and record keeping for you.
Yep. Kristin, how do you answer? Well, first of all, for fun, what's the most common scenario where somebody asks you that question? Or what's the strangest scenario?
Yeah, typically it's a customer in the context of the individual application that they're looking at, but really, truly, the answer to that question is whatever you want it to do.
Yeah. How often have you had somebody ask that question? They'd already bought the product, or somebody had?
Quite a few times, actually, believe it or not. I think customers definitely get the feeling that it can do a lot more than they're using it for. And that's typical with any toolset implementation. You get your phase one in place and then you want to expand, but there's so much opportunity within ServiceNow for expansion. It really can handle pretty much anything you throw at it.
Well, and I think that's one of the key takeaways. Companies invest in it to do one or two things. Companies that get the most out of it see it for what it really is, which is that platform that can be extended to anything.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Andy, because I was sitting there looking through a lot of the use cases, right? Just recently looking at different market areas, places we're working with, some customers we're working with, to be able to quickly show them some examples. And when I look in there, it's interesting how much value I've seen some of these large companies get just by introducing one or two modules, right? When you start stacking those up to the 3s to the 4s, right? All the way from all the IT stars up to SecOps and getting it on top of each other, you really start seeing some really powerful, and the adoption goes through the roof where everybody in the company is using it, because it's tying all the processes together, and the value just goes exponential. So,
yeah. So let me do this with you guys. Let me add to this conversation. You've got ServiceNow, and then you've got 40 other technologies in the house, maybe more. First of all, what can we replace with ServiceNow? That's step one. Step two, in addition to that, is what technologies do you have that you're not integrating with ServiceNow? Because if you're not integrating with ServiceNow, you're missing a chance to get better around processes and potentially automate those processes and save money.
Well, Andy, considering that was my role for a long time, I'll let Kristin answer, right? The answer isn't always to replace another system, right? But it's what you said, is to integrate and get the data points or tie into the processes from end to end with that technology. ServiceNow can replace a lot of technologies, and we certainly did that in my time using ServiceNow. Firmly believe in that, but sometimes it's not a matter of trying to go and displace another product. It's really, how do you make the two tie together, work more efficiently, so you can get that happier employee and customer experience.
Kristin, thoughts on integration with other technologies? Maybe an example of where you've seen it done?
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of times we'll see an integration with a backend ERP system. Many times Salesforce stays in the mix. Salesforce is a great CRM tool set, and it integrates well with ServiceNow. So a lot of times we'll see some of the big platforms stay on the back end and simply integrate the processes. And they each have their place and they each have their purpose. And ServiceNow can still replace quite a few tool sets within the overall application architecture. But yeah, typically you do have at least one or two other large implementations staying in place.
On the flip side of that, Andy, one thing I find interesting is the number of people I speak with and talk to that have ServiceNow. Maybe they have ITSM and ITOM, and how they still have a lot of other disparate systems that are not integrated into it. I'm thinking, you're losing your value there, right? If you're trying to have a single pane of glass and 16 different tools where you can have it in one place and provide more automation.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the Andyism that just came to me there is like you spend all this money on an expensive sports car, but you can't drive it anywhere because you haven't found a way to make it apply to what you're doing. And you got to find every way possible. Or maybe it's a sports sedan is your evolution, and you have lots of reasons you could drive that thing in the snow, on the dry, with 5 kids, without 5 kids.
Indeed.
Sorry, I hope that made sense. So here's where I was going with that. So historically, I've done a ton of work with Citrix and other players in the mix. And I'll give you somebody will ask me what Citrix does, and what they really say coming into it. Oh, that's like the GoToMeeting, right? And I explain to them cloud desktops and applications as a service and work from anywhere and all that stuff. I even would say things like, oh, well, if a pandemic were to hit, you could still work. And I get to the end, they just look at me and go, "You mean like GoToMeeting?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, like GoToMeeting. That's what it is." Yeah, that happened over and over again. All right, so guys, thank you very much. We're planning to do this again in 2 weeks. I look forward to whatever topics we bring next. Kristin, welcome to the podcast. Anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover during the first podcast here?
Oh, well, we've got plenty of podcasts to come where we can cover all those topics.
It is truly limitless what we can talk about. Fred, any parting words before you go?
Just kind of stealing what Kristin said, right? If people want to know what ServiceNow is and what it does, it can do anything you want it to. That's my final words. And if you try to give an answer for what it does today, you'll be wrong tomorrow, because it just keeps extending. And Bill McDermott made that clear last week that they ain't done doing what they're doing.
Most definitely.
Still banging on doors.
Still banging on doors, solving problems, but with a platform to do it now. All right, guys, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Andy.
We'll do this again in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.